Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Means we're brought to you by Immense Networks Cloud IT Management. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and we're fired up. You are here with Sharief, Ishaq in 15 minutes from Saints camp. Black and Gold reported today. Sharief is there. He'll talk to us coming up again in 15 minutes. Glen West talking Tigers in 30 minutes. Got a great story about a Saint from this past weekend. Also got an interesting story from The Athletic on college football program valuations. And the NFL's top 50 offseason moves. Where do the Saints maneuvers rank them on that list? As the offseason's over, y'all. Saints are here, and they are working out. We'll talk about it in just a few minutes. But right now, we start with probably the story of the day. It's our opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
So, the story of the day today is probably coming from Capitol Hill. And I know that to a lot of you, that's not the most interesting place to start. For me, it's not the most interesting place to start, but I do understand that interest and importance are not the same thing. I am no longer interested if a five-star makes an official visit. I'm not that interested when a high school junior makes a commitment. I understand the importance of a recruiting class, but I'm not interested until it's over. Tell me when it's over. Show me the recruiting class. Show me the portal class. Then I'll judge it. I'm not here for all the twists and turns and the cryptic tweets and the 4 different announcement dates and the 15 official visits. I'm not here for all of it. I don't care. I used to care. I don't care. But I do care about the end result. And that is how I feel about the Protect College Sports Act. I understand that what they are attempting to do here, Senators Cruz and Cantwell, the conference commissioners, university presidents, politicians, what they're trying to do is very important. And setting some rules and parameters in collegiate athletics is very important. And when they finish this thing and they can introduce it and pass it as law and I can look at it, I'll go, okay, now I know the rules and that's good. I appreciate that. That's a big, big deal. Transformative. Not only for me professionally, because I cover what they're doing, but also in terms of passion. I care what goes on in collegiate athletics. I love college sports. But the minutia of the back and forth, not my favorite thing. I'm just going to be honest with you. But I'm not going to sweep it under the rug. It's a big deal. Now, I also didn't go to law school. I'm not a politician nor a conference commissioner. And as I would imagine in the case with many of you, not all, I'm not going to paint with that broad a brush, but a lot of this stuff is complicated. And sometimes it's difficult for me to wrap my head around. So I don't pretend to speak with authority on this matter. And today was going to be a very difficult day to get anyone to come on to talk about it based on the time of day and when these announcements came down. This new revision to the Protect College Sports Act was released within the last couple of hours. So the people in my world that cover this are reading it and reporting on it. So they're not going to come chat with me in the middle of the day at this point. There just hasn't been enough time since it came out. But to me, the reporter who obtained the information and put it into the tidiest little box that I saw on the internet as I was trying to dive into this as quickly as I could was Brandon Marcello. He's with CBS. And so I'm going to read a little bit of what he had to say, and then I'll give my thoughts on it here or there. But before we get into it, keep in mind, this bill was introduced, and Senators Cruz and Cantwell showed it to Greg Sankey and Tony Petito and the other conference commissioners, and the conferences took it in and then gave their rebuttal and said, here's how you need to change this. And so now the Senators went back to the drawing board and they changed some things. So that's where we were today as it was re-released. And the authors of this bill have told the conferences, you have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to give us your stance on what we've now done. So this has to be done quickly. And Tony Petitti spoke in Chicago at Big Ten Media Days today. He said he'd been on the phone with Greg Sankey 4 or 5 times this morning. He gave his 30-minute speech and answered questions at Big Ten Media Day. And now I'm confident he's probably in Chicago or on a private plane back to Indianapolis or wherever dealing with this. So here's what Brandon Marcello put in his Twitter feed and kind of my thoughts on it. Said, this is wins for the Big Ten and the SEC in the revised bill. Institutional NIL is exempted from valid business purpose / market value testing. That tells me that you can't test every one of our NIL deals. We're going to pay the players what we want to pay the players, what third-party NIL is willing to pay the players. However, there is a cap on this NIL. So what I believe the conferences are saying is, okay, if you want to tell us where a cap is on NIL, that's fine, but don't tell me I can't give the quarterback $5 million because that's not market value. I'll stay in the cap, but I'm going to pay what we have available and what our NIL partners are willing to pay. So you're not going to test that. Okay. Super League prohibition is expanded to all the power conferences. Private equity loophole language is closed. It sounds like to me, based on hearing Greg Sankey and Tony Petito talk the last 2 weeks, they're not wild about getting in the private equity game right away. And there are teams that are looking to do that. Utah's already jumped in that water, and like that's out there. And that's going to be a hot topic. Private equity is a buzzword, and I'm not going to go too deep into those weeds, but Brandon Marcello says that's a win for the Big Ten and the SEC. Scheduling freedom for those who don't pool media rights. The media rights thing is a massive piece to this entire equation, right? Because right now, the Big Ten and the SEC have such an enormous share of the media money in collegiate athletics. And without their cooperation, everybody else is in trouble trying to keep up. The ACC knows that. It's dead in the water. The Big 12 just doesn't have the brand recognition. The Pac-12 died and is trying to come back to life with smaller schools. Understood, but the Big Ten and the SEC are counted a win there for Brandon Marcello. Now, compromises. This is what Brandon writes. Retention cap, which is what the Big Ten and the SEC asked for, they need additional funds to keep players on their roster. You talk about player acquisition going into the portal, going into the high school ranks. Well, you also have to keep your players. So they wanted to put a pool together of $25 million to keep players on campus from the team that just finished playing. And so what happened when it's a compromise, it was cut down to 20 in the new bill with an additional $5 million in women's NIL credit there. So still the $25 million, but they worked it around a different way. And then media pooling. The bill clearly states participation is voluntary and blocks lawsuits against those who don't participate. Compromise. Now, the losses for the Big Ten and the SEC, and this is interesting because we always talk about how, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get their way. Big Ten and the SEC are going to get their way, but I don't think they're going to be able to run up to Capitol Hill and just run roughshod over everybody. So these are what Brandon would consider losses. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this stuff. Trust me. Sovereign immunity. New litigation exposure is still possible for public universities. No direct language strengthening. I didn't have time to read up on a lot of that, but obviously it comes within it's a litigation piece. And then preemption not broadened. The SEC asked for scope and also to cover recruiting, tampering, and non-NIL competition. It doesn't appear that's addressed. So it didn't mean that they pulled it away, just didn't go back and fix things the way that the SEC may have wanted it. Third-party NIL market standards. Who sets and administers the market standards for third-party NIL? Doesn't appear that's addressed. That's the piece that's always been the most confusing to me personally, because we determined initially when we freed the Wild Wild West that the market value is just what you're willing to be paid. So if you get $4 million for one Instagram post, like, that's it. And if you go in and say there's a cap on what each individual deal is worth, it just, to me, feels like that's difficult to uphold in the court of law. However, we do know that now, because 3 weeks ago they published the findings from the initial year of the clearinghouse that was looking at each deal over $600, and there were significant deals, a significant number of deals that were nixed at that spot. So again, a lot of this stuff is not interesting to the average fan. The average fan just wants to see the scoreboard. The average fan just wants to see the roster. The average fan doesn't care about Republicans, Democrats, ADs, and television executives bickering on Capitol Hill. Not everybody is disinterested, but the average fan is not interested. But ultimately, you've got to learn what the rules are if you want to follow the sport and how it works, especially for those of us that follow this stuff 365 days a year and not just for the 3 hours they're in there crashing helmets in Tiger Stadium. So it sounds like there are some wins for the Big Ten and the SEC when they asked for. There are some losses there, and there are some compromises. That's what you would expect in politics. I follow exactly 0% of the bills that are introduced and passed as law. None. 0%. I pay attention to politics like 2 weeks out of every 4 years when they're about to elect a president. It's about the only time I will flip on one of those news networks. It's not interesting to me. And this falls very much in that purview. However, it's important. And so today is a big day, and tomorrow will be a big day when we understand what the Big Ten and the SEC have stated as to their position on the Protect College Sports Act. Because there are a lot of parties that are involved here, and it's hard to please them all, but two that need to be on board for this to work are the Big Ten and the SEC. And as Brandon Marcello writes, I think they're on board with a lot of this stuff, but not necessarily everything. And I do know this for sure when it comes to the Big Ten. Tony Petitti gave his speech, as I talked about today, in Chicago, and he spoke to the importance of today and how transformative today could be and how seriously he was taking today, having been on the phone with Greg Sankey on 5 different occasions in the morning hours and awaiting the verbiage from the Protect College Sports Act today, which he got shortly after coming off the podium. So it's a big, big day. I don't have sweeping reactions to this because none of it's official. These are just negotiations. These are just suggestions. These are just revisions to a draft of a bill that has not been taken to the Hill yet. So we'll see. That's a look at the Protect College Sports Act. What do you say we shift off of that and talk about Saints football? We'll do it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carbo and his team are just awesome people to work with. They're technical experts, and they have found a little avenue here where they are really helping a lot of businesses around South Louisiana with their group and employee benefits. Jonathan Carbo is so good at taking a look at your current employee benefits, at your health insurance, your dental, your vision, and looking at where some improvements can be made, and oftentimes making those improvements with a benefit to the bottom line. I know how expensive those benefits can be. I spent 7 years in the insurance industry, and I know how prohibitive it can be to businesses to offer the benefits that you would like, but that's also a problem trying to attract talent and keep talent. So if you need a second opinion, or you're upset with the recent renewal, or you're fearful of the next renewal when it comes to your business's benefits, contact Jonathan Carbo and the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Tuesday show is always brought to you by Immense Networks Cloud IT Management. They're online at immense.net. That's immense.net. Saints reporting to camp today. We'll hear from Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore a little bit later on this afternoon. Sharief Ishaq will be there on behalf of WDSU. In fact, he might be on the way based on the visuals I'm looking at right now. He joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sharief, how are you?
I always wonder if I should have my camera on or off.
I don't care. I don't even think you're on. You're probably not even going to show up on this YouTube stream. I think they're just going to keep your picture up. We just want to hear you better. How's that sound?
All right, whatever you want to do. This is your show. Yeah.
All right. Is there any pressing issue beyond Chris Olave that you've got to ask about today?
It has to be Jordan Tyson's health, of course, because his toughest practice was his first practice at rookie minicamp, and now you're wondering, is all the ramping up and holding him back going to be good enough for him to practice tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, Thursday or Friday before they have their first day off? You hope it's tomorrow after the way they held him back and ramped him up. So I'd say that's probably those are the two biggest questions. Their top two receivers, of course, and Chris Olave camp. There's no doubt he's going to show up to camp, but it's when is that deal going to get done? What is it going to look like? Is it going to be with the top receiver in the NFL type right below it? So those are the two pressing questions, of course. I mean, and if they come back with a bill of health to start training camp, I am going to be about as surprised as everyone around the country.
Did the Saints wait too long to sign Chris Olave to an extension? It just seems like the market has inflated, and they're going to end up paying more than they probably would have at another time.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, like you're talking about like right now, him maybe getting $32 million, between 30 and 32 million. I mean, if they did it last year during, the middle of the season, you probably can argue, but now you're talking $4 to $5 million more a year.
Yeah, that seems like a bit of an error, but we'll see how that all eventually shakes out in the end. What's your gut tell you on Jordan Tyson and what his first couple of weeks are going to look like?
Oh, man. I truly hope that Jordan's out there practicing 100%. He's running the routes, showing off his speed, cutting. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think like if you give him 6 weeks since their last mini camp to get better and get into better shape and then heal that hamstring a little bit more, he should be ready to go. If I hear the word pup today, I'm gonna be a little worried, but like that doesn't mean anything because you can come off the pup list day 2 or day 3. But if they are really worried about him being 100% healthy for the start of the season, that's cool. But I need to see him go 100% during training camp in order to have that chemistry and get those reps in with the rest of the team. Because just having him healthy to start the year doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to make sure that he knocks off the rust with his teammates and he's ready to go and be in the formations and have his routes in.
What's your biggest concern on defense?
Oof. Man, they're I would say the spot that I think they have a lot of talent, but I'm worried about an injury would be like cornerbacks outside the Quincy and Kool-Aid. They improved throughout the end of last season, but I'm worried if an injury happens or if they kind of slip back a little bit in their ability to continue growing. I'm gonna start worrying a little bit in that area because there's not really much depth outside of those two guys. Martin Emerson, who they signed from the Browns, is coming off an injury, but after that, it's like, man, who else do they have that you can really rely on that's got a lot of experience in the NFL who can contribute right away? But I think those two guys are stars. My gut tells me those two guys are going to continue growing and become stars, but you've got to hope and pray that there's no injuries happen to either Quincy or Kool-Aid because of the type of domino effect that can that defense if they don't play.
They've got a lot of dudes at defensive end. Obviously, Granderson and Young come back as a starter, and you brought Cam Jordan back in, but then you went and added 2 more right around draft time as well. So what does that rotation look like on the edges? What do you expect to see early on in camp from those guys? I would imagine not too much action from Cam Jordan.
No, Cam, he loves to be at practice. He wants to be in the rotation, wants to get his reps, and he's probably going to get his reps. But you do have to go through the other guys and see how many you're going to keep. I mean, you traded for a guy during the draft who was a former, top 10 pick. So you want to see what he has. And you got your Granderson, the Chase Young. But I expect to give you a nice mix of those guys. I mean, there's nothing wrong with letting your young veterans getting a lot of reps. But you also want to see some of the new faces in there as well. You want to see how well they do. Another guy that I'm anxious to see, 2 guys, I should say, that were kind of coming off injuries is Vernon Broughton and Christian Miller.
Yeah.
You drafted Miller very high. And I'm sure you saw the news this morning, the great thing he did at a store and brought somebody's groceries because they let him just jump in front because he had one item. He seems like to be a very great dude off the field. And whenever before he got drafted, he said, the team that drafts me is going to, get a workhorse, pretty much saying you're going to get a dog, someone who's going to be awesome. So I want to see if he lives up to it. I think that he can truly plug that hole in the middle of the defense and contribute in a major way if he's 100% healthy. I thought, he did a good job at Georgia. There's, just like his teammate Oscar Delp, there's untapped potential when it comes to Christian Miller. So I'm going to keep a close eye on those two defensive tackles. I want to see how much they can bring to the team.
Yeah, those were the two next guys on my list to ask about was Broughton and Miller. Obviously, Broughton missed all of last year, and Miller's brand new to the fold. But Devon Godshaw is the guy right there up front that's the veteran that they're trying to kind of take his job, I would imagine. Like, how do you think that plays out?
Man, that's going to be a good competition. I mean, my gut tells me that, that's going to be one of the good competitions there. Godshaw versus the young guys. How many of those guys they can actually keep? It's good to have a lot of depth at defensive tackle position. You got to find people that can plug the hole in their run defense. I mean, it was like the middle of the pack. You want to be a little bit better this year than middle of the pack. I mean, I think it starts up front for their defense. If they can get some good run stops in the backfield, it's going to have to start up the middle. And I know they have Chase and Cam and Carl and some other young talent that can maybe get it done on the edge. But I still think they have to find a way to be disruptive up the middle in the run game.
This is probably a better question for somebody on the team as opposed to somebody that covers the team, but I'm just curious your thoughts. I sat across from Jeremy Hill when we launched our show initially, and I said, you played on some bad teams, you played on some good teams in the NFL. When you were on the bad teams and y'all reported to training camp, did you think y'all were going to go win the Super Bowl? He's like, yes, we thought we were going to win the Super Bowl every August. Like, that's just the way the NFL guys think, even though most fans don't. And I don't think a lot of Saints fans think the Saints are about to go win the Super Bowl. But I'm curious if you feel like this camp will feel different than last year's camp, being at the Saints finished the way that they did and they made some moves in the offseason.
No, 100%. I mean, the feel around camp is going to be 100% different. You got your starting quarterback. You got, those young players you drafted last year showed some, optimism and showed some positive growth. And then you go out and sign players this offseason and that are, good players. You draft again, what you hope is, good young players that Tyler Shuck can get the ball to. Yeah, I mean, it's the feel is different. I think this is the point in time where Kellen Moore introduces even more to the NFL of who he is as a head coach. He brings more things into the fold, and I think that was phase one last year. Now they're in phase two of the Kellen Moore era. I think that feel is going to be way different than it was to start camp and start the season. They pick up where they left off, where they finished the season into the offseason into now. So I think that, yeah, it feels different. It truly, like when I was out there last year, it was like, what is this? Well, how bad is this team going to be? This year, it's how good are they going to be? There's a chance they could be really good.
We certainly hope so. They'll be talking to Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore a little bit later on this afternoon. You can catch it all at WDSU. Sharief, we'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
All right, I'll see you next Tuesday.
Sharief Ishaq, WDSU in New Orleans, headed to Saints camp to hear from Kellen Moore and Mickey Loomis. Let me remind you about Marucci. Always a great time to go take a tour over at Marucci. You can learn about how they became the official bat of Major League Baseball. The official bat of Major League Baseball from right here out of Baton Rouge. And you can learn that story. You can also see where they make 1,200 of those bats every single day. See the process by which that wood is molded and it's stained and it's shipped off to the best players in the world. Great story. Great product. Gym here in Baton Rouge. And they've also got the Hitter's House where you can become a member if you've got a youth baseball, youth softball player in your house that wants to continue to work year-round, no matter if it's hot, cold, gets dark early, rains every afternoon. There's some elements out there in South Louisiana. Not at the Hitter's House in Marucci. You can check in at any time if you're a member and get those swings in, work on your pitching. It's an awesome facility, an awesome story, just an awesome gym here in Baton Rouge. It is Marucci. Check them out online at maruccisports.com. I mention that Jeremy Hill nugget all the time because it was fascinating to me. Because, I don't, trust me, I do not mean to compare myself to a professional athlete. That's ridiculous, and I'm fully aware of that. But I also, all I have is what I have to draw on. And, teams, I knew for a fact when I suited up the first day of high school basketball practice that our team had a ceiling of being the second or third best team in the district that had no prayer to get to a state quarterfinal state. It was a literal impossibility for us to be that good. I just knew that. But it was still, you practice, you go play in the games, you have a blast. And I realize that's not professional football but I knew we weren't that good. Like, I know that. And I didn't know if professional athletes knew that either, because fans do. Like, I remember the Cubs in 2012 and 13 when they gutted the entire organization to try to rebuild the whole thing. Like, they took the guys out there that I never heard of. Like, they're not going to be good. Do they think they're good? And Jeremy sat here and said, like, yeah, we always thought we were going to win the Super Bowl. So, like, yeah, we think the Saints look different this year than they did last year, but does it feel different there to them? I think that's an interesting thing. And again, it's not a question Sharief's going to be able to answer because he's not on the team. But it's probably a better question for somebody on the team, and maybe that gets asked of those guys over the next couple of weeks. But it probably feels a little bit different for New Orleans this year, being that there's an entrenched quarterback, a second-year coach, some guys who are young that have got some skins on the wall that are looking to get better. And then, of course, you've got some guys that aren't there anymore, namely DeMario Davis. So I think it should feel different there at Saints camp. But Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore will talk about that later on, and we'll play that sound tomorrow. Matt will have probably some of that on AFR later today. Step aside, Glen West next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fighting off a sneeze there. Got it done. Favory Chevrolet GMC, favorychevrolet.com. Favorychevrolet.com is the website. Great deals until August the 3rd, so you still got time to get on by this week and see those awesome deals. GMC is offering employee pricing on the 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali's now until August the 3rd. You can get up to $8,000 off select Denali's, and Chevy's offering 0% APR financing for 5 years on the 2026 Silverado 1500s, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. That's like 3 months for no payments. That's now until August 3rd as well. And Chevy's offering bonus cash on select new vehicles to firefighters, police officers, 911 dispatchers, and EMT paramedics. Get on by and see them, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Check out the entire inventory at favorychevrolet.com. That's favorychevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Tuesday show is brought to you by Immense Networks Cloud IT Management. We just talked Saints with Sharief Ishaq. Let's talk Tigers. Glen West, senior writer over there with the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 team. Joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glen, how are you?
Doing great. All right, how about yourself?
I'm all right. How was that drive back from Tampa?
It was good. Got a couple of podcast listens in on the rewatchables, and was able to kill some time with that. So we did a good job, though. It was all right. 9.5 hours there, 9.5 hours back. Gotta go where the players and the coaches are. So that made it a good trip.
Well, they were there, and you got a time to spend with all four of those in attendance. Let's talk players first. Trades Green was there. I know you had a chance to sit down with him for a little bit. Like, what'd you gather from Trades as he enters what's very likely his last college football season?
Yeah, I think just that he's ready to assume the mantle as the go-to guy in this offense. I think we've heard about it since the spring when we first talked to him, but it sounds like it's even been ramped up, several pegs more since as they've gone across the summer here. He talked a lot about Sam Levitt and the growing connection that he has with him. Talked about how they're throwing 4 times a week. They're talking every day on the phone, doing all the things that you hope a quarterback and his top receiving option would be doing going into the fall. So very excited for Trades. I think he had a really nice showing at media days too. He was a lot more, people maybe don't catch every interview, but I thought he said a lot more in that, 4-hour run through media days, and maybe he said combined throughout the first couple seasons that we got a chance to talk to him. So seems to be doing really well with that, and I think he's in for a really big year.
TJ Daugherty was there, first-year Tiger, seemed comfortable, and obviously is learning a new defense, but he's got Whit Weeks standing right there next to him, and it appears those guys have become good buddies. What did you take away from chatting with TJ Daugherty?
Yeah, I think he's somebody that, is just a player that Lane Kiffin trusts above all else. And I think that's a big reason why you saw him bring Daugherty to media days. I think he's a 2-year starter in the SEC. very reliable. He's been durable the last 2 seasons. He's played in every game, started every game. So I think he's just going to be a really reliable piece in the middle of that defense. And when you're, bringing Weeks back into the fold as well, having somebody that has that experience next to him, I think is going to be really important. And so I'm really excited for Daugherty. I think he's going to be a really solid player for LSU in the middle of that defense. And that connection that he has with Weeks, I think is going to be a big part of what kind of step this defense can take here in 2026.
When we talked to Whit Weeks, I took away from it that, we just didn't really get to see Whit Weeks last year. He was so not healthy the entire time that it's been like a year and a half since we've even seen him at his best, since he got hurt in that bowl game. Like, what did LSU miss not having him last year?
Yeah, just a really solid athlete at the linebacker spot, somebody that can go sideline to sideline and make plays and keep plays from, becoming explosives. And I think he's somebody that, I don't think we've seen the full untapped version of Whit Weeks yet. I mean, I think we started to see it as a sophomore where he really took a big jump. And then you're right. I mean, all of 2025, there was not a week or a month or a day in 2025 where Whit Weeks said, like, I feel pretty healthy, like I feel 100%. And it wasn't until about April or May of this past spring where he really kind of started to feel like his old self. And so I'm really excited for Whit, coming back for his senior year. He talked about how these first 3 seasons for him, they haven't won near as much as he would have liked. And that a big part of him returning is that they can do that in his senior season, and that he can be a strong nucleus for that. So I think he's a guy that you kind of look at and could be a number 18 kind of player. And I'm really excited to see kind of what he can turn into as a senior this year.
You have a thought on number 18?
I think Whit Weeks is a great one. I mean, I think he's somebody that has earned it. And if, you want to do the one on offense, one on defense kind of thing, I think Bo Bordelon on offense would make a ton of sense as well. Somebody that's from Louisiana, has kind of, grown up there and been a Tiger. He's obviously got the family connection there with his dad, and now his, little brother also on the team. But if he, and it sounds like he's really kind of held on to that left guard spot throughout the summer. So if he comes in and is a starter and, somebody that LSU can lean on, absolutely. I think, maybe Bordelon on offense and Whit Weeks on defense makes a lot of sense.
Let's talk about what Lane Kiffin had to say. He spoke for 17 minutes before he allowed a question, and then there were 4 asked of him in the big room. Like, what did you take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty deliberate. I mean, I think the bigger takeaway that I think was more kind of funny is that he was asked about 3 of the questions with the local and some of the national media in that scrum before he went on to the big dais, and he says, "Y'all keep stealing what I'm going to say up there." So, he did a nice job. I mean, I think the term filibustering could certainly be applied to that opening statement, but I think one of the things that's kind of lingered and stuck with me has been what he talked about with the social media stuff, and how when he subtracted things from his life that could be deemed distractions, whether it's relationships or the alcohol or whatever it was that he's been going through, prior to coming to LSU, some of his his life has gotten easier because of it. And I think he's been off the social media since April or May or whatever it was, and LSU's, I'm not saying this is directly correlated to that, but LSU's gone on a nice little recruiting hot streak here over the summer. They've done some really good work with their development of the players, and I think Kiffin just feels like his life is a little bit easier right now being off of social media. So we'll see how long that lasts, but I think that was one of the things that maybe stood out for me as we kind of got a couple days to digest everything that he said.
Glen West is our guest. He's senior writer over at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 team. He's with us on Tuesday. Let's transition over to hoops. The school year is creeping up. I don't see any new names. So, what's your sense from what's going on over there? I've asked you this a couple of times throughout the summer, but the clock keeps ticking.
Yeah, I wrote about it again this morning. Like, we're leaving July here, and I mean, it's kind of hard to believe. And this is still a long ways out. But LSU's exactly 10 weeks away from taking the court against McNeese in their preseason scrimmage there on October the 8th. And so that's just to mainly say or highlight just how much work there is still to be done here. I mean, they've announced 4 players. They're still looking for a point guard. They still are trying to get these 4 international guys over the finish line from an eligibility standpoint. RJ Lewis is on campus and looks like he's doing some things in the facility, but he's still not cleared yet. So there's putting the team together on the court first, and then there's actually getting to the actual basketball piece of this, which will start in late August. And so the one thing that they've missed out on here is a full summer with their whole team. That's the bad part about having so many of these international guys that you're trying to get converted over here. But I think with the caveat or the response to that would be, well, a lot of these guys have played in professional leagues before, and you really only have 35 or 40 days before the start of their season, so they should be able to pick things up pretty quickly. But I just it's interesting that you've only really got now 2 months with your full team if they're able to get it all together here before August 24th. And so when they all get here, it's going to be time is of the essence when they get here, and it's going to be really important that the player development piece and the system and the play style and how they want to operate as a team gets figured out pretty quickly here.
And last one, Logan Schmidt does not sign with the Cleveland Guardians before Monday's deadline. So now it's LSU or the junior college route. Like, what's your read on that situation?
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys have been all over that too, and I've certainly made some reaching out and all that stuff. And it sounds like the LSU's making the right pitch. They're making the right claim. Obviously, Jay Johnson was in Pittsburgh this last weekend. Congratulating another top 5 pick that they've ushered through the program. So social media too from the LSU baseball account has certainly picked up the last couple days as well. I think most people have noticed that. So look, I just think this is going to come down to, does Logan Schmidt want to be a 3-year college baseball player, or does he want to go 1 year JUCO and then go to the MLB? And I think everything that has certainly all the decisions that have been made up to this point in his life have been about the fast track to MLB baseball. And so LSU's maybe got to recruit against that a little bit, but I do think the longer that this drags out, the better the chances are for LSU, because it means that he's listening to what they're preaching and that he's probably having some very serious discussions about whether or not he wants to come to Baton Rouge.
We'll talk next week, and it'll be time to roll for fall camp. Thanks, Glenn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Hunt.
Glenn West, Bengal Tiger, part of the team over there on 3. Appreciate him every single Tuesday. Remind you about Boudreaux's Electrical Services, BoudreauxElectrical.com, BoudreauxElectrical.com. Neil and Melissa have been running the show for 40 years at Boudreaux's Electrical, and they know what it takes to service South Louisiana. It's storm season. This is the time to seriously consider getting that Generac home standby generator, because even if you evacuate during a hurricane, which hopefully we don't have, but if we do and you do evacuate, you want to come back to a house that's up and running. You don't want to come back to a house that's dark and hot, because we've all been there. And if you decide to ride the storm out, you want to have the peace of mind of knowing that you'll have that generator ready should the power in your neighborhood go out. Generac home standby generator power's on, and you've got your lights, you got your fridge, you got your AC, you got your television, you're good to go. It's an amazing peace of mind that comes with having that Generac home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. And you can also do this for your business. They're happy to handle commercial orders at Boudreaux's Electrical. Give them a call at 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Just to put a bow on the basketball part of that discussion with Glenn, because we hit all 3 sports there. And I've said this a few times, but it doesn't become any less true. And as Glenn mentioned, RJ Lewis is on campus. Will he get eligible? I don't think the NCAA is going to make him eligible. Will LSU take that to court? Perhaps. He never played in a G League game, never played in an NBA game. He signed 2 contracts. Is that going to be disqualifying? I don't know. But you've got these international guys who are waiting in the wings that have different sets of circumstances based on age, based on money earned, based on time served professionally. I don't imagine Michael Ruzick is going to have any problem getting eligible at all. It's an 18-year-old who has played a couple years of professional basketball, but is well within the age limits, and I don't think has earned his way out of playing collegiate basketball based on the amount of internationals that are let in. But you got to worry about Sally Yang. You got to worry about Bryce Dessert. You got to worry about those guys and see what happens there. Marcio Santos as well. But LSU feels comfortable with their case for their team. And I think that they understand over there, this is based on a couple of conversations, not set in stone. I'm not reporting anything whatsoever. This is conversation. I don't think they'd be flatline stunned if a player or 2 did not get eligible, but they've built in some backup plans here. And you're just not going to see Will Wade get to mid-October where they're playing the scrimmages and go, well, got 9 guys, let's see if we can make it work. Like, that's not how this thing's going to work. And that appears to be true based on Glen's reporting, and I'm comfortable with the conversations that I've had as well. So I wish, believe me, as someone who covers the team and then certainly as somebody who wants them to do well, I wish that we had more concrete stuff, but things move slow in the NCAA eligibility world. It just does. They do. And right now, things are moving slow. It's still July, barely, but it's still July. I will start to really tap my foot on about August 12th. So give it 2.5 weeks. If in 2.5 weeks you don't have this guy's going to LSU, he got eligible as a fifth-year player, this international player has been ruled eligible, LSU sends out a press release. Like, if you don't have some of that stuff going on in the next 2.5 weeks, and trust me, after a week of this, we're in fall camp and writing practice reports and press conferences, and Kiffin's talking, and we'll be going 1,000 miles an hour on that, and nobody will really be thinking about what's going on over at the basketball practice facility. But it can still give us the news. And so if it doesn't happen in 2.5 weeks, I'll start to tap my foot. I didn't say hit the panic button. I didn't say come on here and rant and rave. I didn't say that LSU was screwed. I said I'll start tapping my foot. Right now I'm going, I wish that would move along. I'll start tapping my foot if in 2.5 weeks you don't have any news, but I think we will. I think you'll get that. So we'll see. We'll come back and close out the hour with a story that Sharief mentioned a little earlier, but I thought was really cool. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. Gotros Outdoor Power. Been telling you all month long about the amazing deals going on at Gotros Outdoor Power. And you better hurry if you're going to take advantage of them. And I'm imagining that you probably will want to, because all throughout July, which only has a couple days left, 20% off MSRP for all Hustler commercial mowers. That's 20% off MSRP for all Hustler commercial mowers. And 0% financing for 48 months is available. You're talking about the largest Hustler inventory in the state. You're talking about the largest parts inventory in the state. You're talking about the Gotro family that's been at this for 22 years. They can help you if you need a new mower. Go by and see them. Huge location on Airline Highway. Massive inventory right there. Or go see them in Gonzales as well. It's Gotros Outdoor Power. You can find them at GoTrosOnline.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Tuesday show is always brought to you by Immense Networks Cloud IT Management. Is your business protected from cyber attacks? If not, I need to call Immense, because these can be incredibly invasive. They can be undetected for extended periods of time, can cause a lot of damage, a lot of sensitive information can get in the wrong hands, and then all of a sudden you've got a significant issue on your hand. That's the beauty of working with a program like Immense. They can monitor your systems 24/7, proactively keeping cyber threats away, as opposed to reacting to them months down the line. If you just think of IT as somebody who walks around the building, makes sure that when somebody's computer's frozen, they can fix it, that's not the entirety of the story. Immense can help your business grow with the use of technology and be protected with the use of technology. Immense Networks Cloud IT Management. They're online at immense.net. Got a couple of minutes here to finish up hour number one. Want to shout out Christen Miller. Leslie Pedigo. Leslie was shopping either Sunday or Monday, I don't know the day, but was at Rouse's in Metairie. And she had a big load of groceries. And unbeknownst to her, she doesn't watch football, Christen Miller was behind her. And all Christen was buying was shrimp. So she goes, oh, I got this big load. Like, let him go in front of me. And Christen Miller goes, oh, really appreciate that. And then he dropped the shrimp on the conveyor belt and said, just ring it all up together. I got it. And she was like, no. And he's like, hey, listen, my mom told me to do good deeds. This is a good deed I can do. I appreciate you doing that. I'm picking this tab up. And so he paid for her groceries. And then he walked out with his shrimp, and she was getting everything bagged up as he had paid for things. And the person ringing up the groceries at the end and bagging them was like, you don't know who that is? And she was like, no, I have no idea. It was very nice. No, he plays for the Saints. So Leslie ran outside and said, oh, hey, do you play for the Saints? And Christen Miller goes, I do play for the Saints. She goes, oh, can we take a picture? So she took the picture, and she posted the post up on her social media. Just a really cool story of a young guy who's obviously got some financial blessings that he very well earned as a second-round pick in the National Football League, just doing something really nice that he didn't have to do. I think he, based on the post that Leslie put up, he was patiently waiting with that one item. We've all been to the grocery store for the one thing we forgot, and you're looking at the lines going, I got to stand behind this person for 8 minutes when all I can do is ring this thing up and be out. And he didn't rush, didn't push to the front. And then when she said it go on through, which was really nice of her, he said, hey, that's great. I appreciate it. I'll just pay for the whole thing. And he did. So that's a cool story about Christen Miller. It's always interesting to see guys ingratiate themselves into the community. And we know the stories of, what Cam Jordan has meant to the city, what Demario Davis meant to the city. I don't want to single everyone out, but so many Saints that have done amazing things throughout the community. And, Christen Miller is new and hasn't had that much time there, but these little acts of kindness are things that make you feel good. I always say this, and I don't think I'm being overly pessimistic. I don't think this is an unreasonable way to look at things, but I hesitate to comment on the personal lives and the people that I pull for and watch on television because I don't know them. I don't know what they do in their spare time. I don't know what they do under their roof or in public or in private. Like I pull for the team. I watch the sports and then I move on without, discussing who these people might be. But at the same time, while I see it that way, I can also appreciate when someone goes out and does something that's obviously very, very good. This is a small thing. Who knows how big the order was, but it was a great thing. And I think that's a good thing for Christen Miller as he reports to training camp today for the New Orleans Saints and try to earn some playing time for the black and gold on defense. Second-round pick out of Georgia, doing some great stuff. And it was a great story that we read on social media earlier today. So good way to finish off hour number one. If you missed any of hour number one, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Our content should show up there. Looking for LSU content specifically, Hunt on LSU. Looking for Saints content, Hunt on Saints. Open the show with Tony Petitti's comments as well as the Protect College Sports Act that is kind of moving forward as of 9 o'clock tomorrow. Sharief, Ishaq talk some Saints with us. Glen West talking Tigers. We'll pause for national headlines and Sports Center. When we come back, talk about college football.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
All right, closing up hour number one here. Thanks to our friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com, FabryChevrolet.com. And tire inventory is online there at FabryChevrolet.com. So whether you're looking for a new vehicle, looking for a pre-owned vehicle, they're all there. You can sort by what you're looking for. If you want just the new ones, sort new. Looking for the pre-owned vehicles, search by pre-owned. And if you're there and you're looking specifically for price, they can set your price filters there. Maybe mileage is very important to you. You can set by mileage. It's all there. It's so user-friendly. And then you can get a chance to go on by and see my friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC right there on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Reminder that GMC is offering employee pricing on the new 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali's. Now until August 3rd, you can get up to $8,000 off select Denali's, and Chevy's offering bonus cash on select new vehicles to firefighters, police officers, 911 dispatchers, and EMT paramedics. That's all there at FabryChevrolet.com.